I have to say, as far as breakups go. Now, as everybody listening knows, we always do a character deep dive. Today we have characters, and mostly we are inspired to do these two because they stole this episode, like they flat out. You know, there's a lot of things that are going on with both the Detail and the Barksdale crew and Marlo. All right, yeah, a lot of stuff that we will certainly cover. But y'all, anybody who watched this cannot say that Bernard and Squeak were not the stars of Backburners. This is the black love we needed, Van. This is the black love that we needed to see on screen. Just so much about their relationship, their dynamic. It's in many ways it's goals. In many ways it's goals. So give me your impressions of the Bernard and Squeak love story.
Okay, well, first of all, this is our first impressions of them, but I gotta say, it's both incredibly goals and also insanely toxic at the same time.
Of course, that's the ebb and flow. That's the yin and the yang. It's like the love and the toxicity.
Yeah, the whole thing. So there's a point where she says she doesn't trust any man on the road by himself, right? Which tells me Squeak's been around. She knows how it goes out there. She knows what he could be doing. She's not gonna let him hoe up and down the Eastern Seaboard. You know what I mean? She's not gonna let him do that. You know what I mean? I get it. But at the same time, though, if Bernard decides he's gonna get into his car and then drive and do these things without her, she can't force her way in. So there is love there. There is an actual love to where he
wanted her on that road trip. He needed her on that road trip.
He wanted her on the road trip, right? Like he wanted her to come with him. And it's weird how, and the show does a good job of this, an inconsequential interpersonal relationship, just the dynamics that exist between two people are going to end up being so huge to everybody
This is the biggest file this away for later. This whole episode is Bernard and Squeak.
Particularly when she peeps Shamrock not look at the receipts or file the receipts and just throw them away. After that, that's a gigantic file this away. Because now she's got to do her Delilah bit and take down a strong black man.
See, there you go.
Cut his hair.
She tried to edify. She tried to edify Bernard, and you just not even gonna let her be great.
She's trying to edify. She's trying to make him break the discipline. See, this is what we're talking about. We talking about like this man is on the road trying to do his work, and she talking about going to the movies. Like it's just an interesting thing, but that's also very important. I say that in jest, but The Wire always has characters set up these disciplines that are put in place for them to protect themselves. And the folly of all of those disciplines is that they are incapable, outside of a couple of characters, of adhering to them. They can never do it. They can never not use the phone in the way they're not supposed to. They can never not talk in the car. They can never really do it. There's only a couple of characters that can always stick to the disciplines that they've set out there, right? You know what I mean? And, you know, Squeak is not in the game. It's a weird time where she probably knows it. She's been around it, but she doesn't get why they might be doing things the way they do. He doesn't probably share that with her. So her civilian life interfering with Bernard's soldier strict discipline that he has to do to maintain the integrity and the safety of the whole organization. They boil the safety and the forward momentum, the money making of the whole organization down into one relationship, because that's how fragile it is. It's really, we talk about Squeak and Bernard and how, you know, they become the comic relief, but it's really brilliant. Like when you run into a high level drug operation like this, everybody got to play their role. It's got to go pretty perfectly or else you get caught, and it never can go perfectly. So you always get caught.
So Lester said this, I believe, in season 1 or 2. I feel like it might have been 2, but don't quote me on this. And it became the title for what is the best comprehensive Bible written about the Wire. All the pieces matter. Mm-hmm. And this is this is kind of the American workforce in a nutshell, is that you can have the most brilliant, buttoned up, disciplined organization. But if everybody doesn't do their job, and some of these jobs on the outside of it seem like menial tasks. Because imagine if you're Bernard being assigned the task of going up and down I-95, covering 200 miles to buy a bunch of cell phones. That sounds like the most tedious, boring shit in the whole world.
Right.
And yet the entire core of the operation relies on this, which gets me back to your man Stringer Bell. All right. Because this is a slight detour. All right. Yeah. Now, Stringer Bell, he is about this discipline. He is trying to run everything like a Fortune 500 company, even though he is not exactly dealing with the brightest bulbs in the lamp. Right? He has tried to make this as simple as possible. Now, I'm not blaming Stringer here, all right? So if that's where you think that I'm going. But Stringer entrusted this to Shamrock to run the phone operation. Now, he's running a lot of operations. He's the day-to-day. He's his right-hand man. Shamrock then entrusts Bernard. The problem in this whole equation is that the person who this matters the most to, who has the most to lose, frankly, is Stringer. And he's not there to oversee and make sure that Shamrock is keeping those receipts. He can't make sure that Bernard is buying, I think he has to buy 2 phones on every few stops. Like he just basically doesn't want him to get them all at the same place, so they're not easily traceable. So it's like he has the discipline in his head, but then when you're the leader of the company, you have to depend on everybody else to carry that same level of care and same level of discipline, and they just don't. And and it also shows something that is definitely true, because as we're taping this podcast, there's a song out there called WAP. I'm sure you've heard of it, Van.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, yes.
I've definitely heard it. Not just heard it, I've seen it, and I've seen it several times.
Yes, that's right. It is a piece of art. It is an American treasure. It is so far one of the highlights of 2020. The entire song is built off one principle that man has known from the beginning and still applies to present day and will always be here. It will never go away. It will not blow away in the sand. What is undefeated? WAP is undefeated.
WAP is undefeated.
WAP is undefeated. And Squeak knows WAP is undefeated. So one of the key details that happens in this whole breakdown of their black love story on the road is when, after peeping, and this is, by the way, why women are masterminds. Let's just establish this up front. She peeps the fact that Shamrock is throwing away these receipts and not even checking to make sure that Bernard is purchasing these phones as he's been instructed. So she says, you know what? I want to spend some time with my man, some quality time. I don't want to be buying these damn phones. So she then offers Bernard oral sex. She was like, look, get 6 phones in one spot, 20 minutes of oral sex. What you gonna do?
Right. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And that's why WAP, or I guess in this case, Wham, wet ass mouth, is...
In that situation, while I was disappointed in Bernard, I was like, what you gonna do?
You kind of got it. You kind of got it. You kind of got it.
Do, man?
She didn't get him with the movies necessarily, but she did. She was like, I know how to do this. I know what it is. And the thing is, though, I guess, and that's about that lack of discipline. One, why was she even in the funeral home? And why was she that close to the door? Like, why would she even come in there?
That's the part I don't get. Like, why he's gonna? It seems like someone would have stopped her from coming in. Yeah, like that's the part I don't get.
So that's like failure and breakdown at the initial. Is that she saw too much because he put her in the position to see too much. And she started asking a bunch of questions, particularly after she just discovered the gun. She's like, why you need a gun? Right. Exactly. Yeah. This is the thing is that in this game, this game of the Baltimore police versus the Barksdales. Look, Bernard, if he can't even stand up to the interrogation of his woman, he has little hope of standing up to that against the police. He can't even outsmart her.
Right.
Now, granted, most women are probably smarter than the police in many respects, but when it comes to these kind of dynamics. But I'm like, dude, you can't even keep your shit tight on this area. You have no hope for any. Well,
I mean, the reality is that women are generally smarter than men, in my experience, and Bernard is far behind Squeak. Like, she kept upping the ante on him, basically.
She did.
She kept upping the ante on him. She kept upping the ante until he couldn't say no. And she eventually got him to do what she wanted him to do. Also, it's interesting to me that she asked him why he needed a gun, just because that to me shows, I think I might have said this before, how far removed she is from what it is that he actually does. Well, of course he needs a gun. He's part of a drug organization. A drug organization that happens to be, if not in the full throes of a war, in the early back and forth of a turf war. So yeah, if you know that he's going in there to see Stringer and he's with Avon, he's with the Barksdales, why is it so crazy that he needs a gun? So she really is on the outside of it. She doesn't understand that. She doesn't get why he has to buy it. All their discipline and all of that shit comes second to Squeak wanting a Shrek Slurpee, some Krispy Kreme, and to go to the movies. And those are the types of little things that end up the cracks that become these fissures, that become these gigantic faults that end up sinking these organizations.
I mean, I feel like Squeak didn't ask for much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She did not. All she wanted was a Shrek Slurpee, a Krispy Kreme, and the movies. That's all she asked for. I mean, if you think about it, considering there's always this constant conversation on Twitter, especially about $200 dates and all that. She got, look, Squeak has got to be a man's dream in that regard. A car ride, a Slurpee, a Krispy Kreme, and the movies. What's that run you? Maybe $50? Maybe.
Right.
Tops.
Right.
I don't even think it's 50.
By the way, can I say something real quick on that?
Not really. You have before the date, maybe you have after, but there's a limited interaction where you're getting to know this person. The club, terrible date. Like, that means you don't even want to talk to me. Right? We in a loud ass club. It's like, why? We ain't gonna have a conversation. So that doesn't make sense. Bernard deserves some credit. He took her on a road trip, which what do you gotta do in a car? You gotta talk.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to talk the whole time. So he was really, I feel like Squeak and Bernard, that, even if he meets an unfortunate end in terms of going to jail or something like that, I feel like that they would stay together. I feel like this would be a couple featured on Love After Lockup. It would be Squeak and Bernard.
I think so too. I think Squeak and Bernard represent, in many ways, my favorite relationship romantically in The Wire. Can't think of anyone, maybe with the possible exception of Lester and what's her, Chardine.
Yeah. It's kind of hard. It's got to be Lester and Chardine.
It's got to be Lester and Chardine, but it's right there. They're in the Squeak and Bernard are in the Lester and Chardine Wire Romance Hall of Fame for sure.
That is correct. I mean, I knew from the moment I first saw their interaction on screen, I was like, here's a couple built to last. They're built to last. That's all there is to it. So anyway, shout out to Squeak and Bernard for providing us not just endless comedy, but people should take note because they are a key component of how the rest of season 3 unfolds based off a lot of things, pretty much everything that you saw unfold in this episode. Now let's get on to some of the best scenes in Back Burners. What were some of the best for you, Van?
All right. A lot of